Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. There are actually two different versions of this game. There's Chain of Memories and then there's Chain of Memories. The original Chain of Memories came out for the Game Boy Advance. Chain of Memories is the same game essentially, but we are using 3D assets in a three-dimensional space. I kind of wanted to see all these characters and this world in the beautiful pixelized graphics of the Game Boy Advance, and so I decided to play through that version. Also, I just feel like this game was kind of built with that 2.5D isometric view in mind. However, if you do play the original Chain of Memories, you are going to miss out on the better cinematics, in my opinion. So chronologically, this game takes place in between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. And the crazy thing about Kingdom Hearts is there are only 3 numbered titles in the series, but there are so many other side titles for so many other different consoles and handhelds, and pretty much every one of them is relevant to the actual plot and lore of Kingdom Hearts, and this game is no exception, to the point where the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2 kind of picks up right off the bat after the events of Chain of Memories, and there are characters and story elements in Kingdom Hearts 2 that definitely exist because of the events that took place in Chain of Memories. This game is very divisive though, and it is mostly in part due to its combat system. Its combat system is very unique, probably nothing you've ever heard of or played before. The idea of this combat system is Sora uses attacks based on cards, and so it is a deck building game, but there also is that action RPG element. You're still moving around, you're dodge rolling, you're jumping. It's just in order to use your attacks, you have to play these attack cards. And so your deck is probably going to be full of your basic, hey, whack an enemy with this Keyblade card. But there's also some basic magic elements, like you can play a fire card to cast a fire spell, or a blizzard card to cast a blizzard spell. It gets much more complicated from there, and I'm going to try my best to explain this as simply as I possibly can. So every card has a number value ranging from 0 to 9. Whenever you attack, you are playing that card, and whenever an enemy is attacking you, they are playing that card. If an enemy plays a 2 and you play a 1, your attack will bounce off them and you won't be able to initiate that attack, and they'll be able to freely attack you for a brief couple seconds. It goes the other way too though, so if an enemy plays a 5 card and you attack with a 6 card, you override their attack. Zeros are kind of a unique case because zeros will override any amount, so you think that they're pretty good, but any amount also overrides them. So you'll definitely want to play the 0 as a reactive card rather than a proactive card, and zeros are especially important late game. We'll get into that later. Now you are able to essentially chain 3 of these cards together to do either a combo or a special attack, and these are called slates. As you play through the game and as you level up, you will learn of new slates, and this will basically unlock new abilities and spells for you, assuming you have the right cards set up. So for instance, you can play 1 fire card to cast fire, or you could play 3 fire cards to cast Fire Aga. A lot of the abilities that are featured in Kingdom Hearts 1 are also featured in this game if you know the sleight and you play the correct 3 cards. Some of these sleights are 3 fire to cast Fire Aga. Other ones are, hey, play a sleight of 3 attack cards ranging between this value and this value. And so the cool thing about this game is once you find a really powerful sleight that you like, then you can go about collecting the cards required for this sleight in order to play this sleight as many times as you want to. It goes deeper from there because every time you play a sleight, the first card in that sleight is now removed from that battle. And so if you are playing an extended boss battle, for instance, you may want to reconsider playing that sleight because once you play it, you won't be able to play that first card. Now, in normal trashy mob heartless battles, this isn't like that big of a deal because a typical heartless battle is going to last maybe 20 to 30 seconds if you have really strong sleights at your disposal. And so if the card goes away, no big deal, because the battle's going to be over soon anyway. It's just those boss battles that you really need to consider, and you really need to be careful of when exactly you play those sleights, especially if you only have a handful of those set up in your deck. So for instance, one of the sleights that I ended up using a lot is an ability called Mega Flare, where if you equipped a Mushu card and 2 fire cards, it does massive AoE damage, and it's really good at clearing up all of those regular Heartless battles really quickly. And I did kind of build my deck around using fire abilities, because as you play through the game, you will also unlock a type of card called enemy cards, and these enemy cards basically grant like passive effects for a certain amount of time. And so I was able to play an enemy card that boosts my fire abilities, and then all of my sleights are built around this fire ability passive bonus, and so I was able to do massive damage in a matter of seconds. Another one that I would often use, a sleight that I would often use, is Fire Attack Attack, and this allows you to hurl your Keyblade, but it has like that fiery element attached to it, and that can also do massive damage. There are other powerful sleights that I often used. For instance, if you play 3 Cloud cards, then Cloud will appear and just start striking enemies down. It was really good at taking down the enemies who were immune to magic or had like big beefy shields. As you play through the game, you are adding cards to your deck, and you are finding sleights that you like and you can rely on, and then you're building your deck around those strategies. Now, how do you acquire cards? Well, when you're not in battle, you are able to navigate this isometric view, and you want to interact with all of the objects. You want to attack the lampposts, destroy the boxes, you want to jump on pedestals, and all of these interactable objects have a chance of spawning a card. You are also able to interact with Moogles, and this is like a little Moogle shop where you will spend your currency in order to open up a booster pack. However, you can only choose 1 card out of that booster pack, and so it shows you like 5 different cards. Which one do you want to add to your deck? There are also premium cards, and this is kind of where I go into your CP. Basically, your deck is only able to hold so many cards of a certain value, and so you can't just like add every single card that you have to your equipped deck. You need to pick and choose which ones you want to add. Premium cards basically go away the first time you use them, but they have a lower CP value, and so you're able to add more cards to your deck. Are you still with me, or have I completely lost you? I do like the simple space of the combat. I do think that it fits well for the Game Boy Advance. Basically, you're like placed in a rectangular arena. It doesn't give you that much room to maneuver and dodge enemy attacks, but you're probably not going to be relying on dodging enemy attacks too much because of the space being so small. Mostly what you'll be trying to do is cancel out the enemy's value. And so bosses can also play slates, these 3 cards attached together, but you can cancel out their slates just by playing 1 0 card. And so this is particularly important for the end game bosses where they equip slates with a really high value. You can just immediately cancel it with a 0 card. The frustrating thing about this though is bosses can do the same. So if you have this really powerful slate set up, they can just cancel it with a 0. Control-wise on a Game Boy Advance is also kind of difficult to navigate with this game, particularly because in order to cycle through your deck, you are using the L and R shoulder buttons, and also to attach a card and add cards to your slate, you have to press L and R at the same time. And so you can see why this would be kind of tedious trying to pick the correct card, but you accidentally press R before you press L, or vice versa, and you end up cycling around your deck rather than adding that card to the slate. If you're playing for a long time, I can attest this kind of gives you some hand cramps as well. I was playing on the Game Boy Advance SP, and so maybe that it's a form factor thing, but I'm pretty sure that that problem is fixed in the Chain of Memories version. Now, as you're navigating throughout these worlds, you will be kind of building out the layout as you see fit using world cards. Now, world cards basically affect what is in the room that you are going into next. So if you encounter a door, you're going to attack it, and it has a certain requirement for a world card. Like, for instance, for one room, you can only have you have to attach a world card with a value of 6 or more that's red. And you'd collect these world cards as you defeat random enemies, so this is kind of your incentive besides experience points in order to defeat these regular Heartless. But you play the card, you're choosing between your red cards, and these red world cards have different things. Like, for instance, one makes it so the next room has weaker Heartless. One world card makes it so the enemies are stronger. One makes it so there's more Heartless than there normally would be in a room. There are also different colors of cards. For instance, like green world cards affect how combat starts. For instance, the first wave of enemies that you encounter have not very much health. Or there's also blue cards, which are kind of like, they create the room to be not combat focused. For instance, you can play a Moogle card and that will make a Moogle shop spawn in the next room. Or a save card, which makes it so a save point appears in the next room. And so it is an interesting concept by the way that you are kind of choosing what you want to be in each room, assuming you have the proper world card. There are also special world cards that kind of progress the story of the world. And when we talk about story, if you think that the Kingdom Hearts 1 story for each of the Disney worlds was watered down, this game has even more watered down versions, where essentially like each Disney world is like 3 different scenes that is loosely based around the story from Kingdom Hearts 1, at least like the Disney World areas. And so I really did not play this game to try and rehash the Disney World story aspects, just because like they are so watered down. What I was mostly interested in was the story of Chain of Memories and how it bridges between Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. In this story, Sora, Donald, and Goofy, after the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, they find themselves in this castle called Castle Oblivion. And as they are navigating through it, their memories are starting to get messed with in a way that they start forgetting things or remembering things. And so all of these different Disney worlds that we're going through, it's just worlds that are formed from Sora's memories in the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. Alongside this, you're going to get your first view of Organization 13, a mysterious group of individuals in black cloaks. Each of them are different personality-wise and weapon-wise and combat-wise, and you're going to get these cutscenes where it's just them and cutscenes where they are teasing Sora or goading him. And I don't want to spoil very much about this game. This game just basically leads to the events of how Sora became asleep in a pod at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2. Now, if this gameplay sounds frustrating or uninteresting, I totally think you're valid in just watching a recap on YouTube or just watching all of the cinematics on YouTube, and I don't think much information will be lost here. And trust me, I have tried many times to play through this game and I've always bounced off of it. It's just because I was so determined to brute force my way through this that I went and I watched the tutorials and I really started to understand how this gameplay works, because I really wanted that notch in my belt of having beaten Chain of Memories. But I would absolutely not blame you if you don't want to put yourself through that experience. Once you really understand slights and you find some good ones, I don't think the combat is that bad. It's just getting to that point where you have to understand that if you play an attack card, you're not necessarily going to effectively attack the enemy. And it's not that difficult once you get to that point of understanding. Once you have some strong slides set up and a good deck built, the combat really isn't that difficult until you get to the end game bosses, where once I got to that point, I had to completely change my deck to be more equipped to do these one-on-one battles rather than equipped to take down massive hordes of weaker Heartless. But it was satisfying to go back, rethink my strategy, rebuild a deck, come up with some new strong slights, and then go back into battle and have that plan effectively work. So I did effectively beat the last boss in Chain of Memories. My save file said it took me 14.5 hours to beat the game, but the interesting thing about this game, well, there's a lot of interesting things about this game, but another interesting thing about this game is once you clear the game, you play through everything as Sora, you get an additional story where you get to play as Riku. This is called Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories Reverse/Rebirth, and now you get to play through Castle Oblivion from Riku's side of things, and it takes place exactly the same time as Sora is clearing through the Castle Oblivion. Now, Riku's gameplay is pretty different than Sora's. You always have a pre-built deck, and anytime you go to a new world, you have like a new set of cards, and you have to navigate through the combat using this predetermined set of cards. And his deck is usually just full of your basic attack cards, and so you are going to be playing this side of things more as like a hack and slash type of deal. You still need to worry about card values, but you don't need to worry about it as much as Sora. Riku doesn't inherently get the ability to use sleights either, so you can like equip 3 cards, but it's just going to be a basic 3-hit combo, except Riku has the power of darkness, and so if you reach a certain limit during the combat, you are able to turn it into Dark Riku. And Riku's whole story in this game is he's trying to grapple with the darkness that still resides inside him, and so he's constantly going to be taunted by Ansem, who isn't really Ansem, but we can get into that a different casual review. He's also aided by King Mickey, so Sora is aided by Donald and Goofy in this game through the form of Donald and Goofy cards. In Riku's side of things, you are going to get the ability to use Mickey cards, and Mickey basically like refills your deck and heals you. Now, Dark Riku can use a small handful of sleights depending on the value of the attack cards, but this is a temporary state, and more often than not, I would not trigger Dark Riku by the time I finished a basic combat scenario. And so, I don't know, I just had a lot more fun mixing and matching and building and customizing my deck with Sora compared to Riku, who is pretty much pre-built, and I hardly ever got to use his powerful slates. Story-wise though, it is fairly interesting playing through his game, and it is pretty short. As far as all the different Disney worlds that you go to, there's like absolutely no story to it compared to the bare minimum story that is in Sora's side of things. Basically, you're navigating through Nightmare Before Christmas. There's no cutscenes with like Oogie Boogie or anything like that. You just enter the boss room and fight Oogie Boogie with absolutely no dialogue at all. But every time in between each of these Disney worlds, that's when you're gonna get the cutscene of some of the members of Organization 13 or some of the stuff that Riku is dealing with. But the combat got real tedious by the time I was near the end of Riku's story. For one, I've already spent almost 15 hours playing through this game as Sora, but at least then I was acquiring new cards, getting new sleights, really customizing things, and with my powerful sleights, I was able to get through all of those basic battles fairly quickly. That wasn't the case with Riku, because he doesn't have any powerful sleights that just delete the room whenever I execute them. You have to go around and just whack a bunch of enemies. And so I will admit, near the end of the game, playing on Riku's side of things, I stopped clearing every room that I would go through, and I would just kind of rush to wherever the boss was. I didn't feel like I was too underleveled with Riku, just because I was able to get to level 50 by the time I got to the end boss with Riku, and the last boss on Riku's side of things only took me like 2 or 3 tries. So I don't think I was underleveled. Maybe you're not meant to clear every single room that you go through, but that's how I played this game for the majority of the time. The level up system too is kind of interesting with Riku's side of things, because there's not like that much incentive to level up as Riku. Now, Sora, every time you level up, you have a choice to increase your CP, which allows you to build better decks, or increase your health, or every 5 levels you are able to learn a new sleight. With Riku, you can either get more health, you can increase the duration of your dark form, but like you hardly ever trigger the dark form unless it's a boss fight, or every 5 levels you got a slight boost in your attack power. And so it wasn't that, if I could increase my attack power every single level, that'd be some really good incentive to level up as Riku, but that wasn't really the case. They limit you quite severely that way. And so by the end, the Riku's playthrough, the Reverse Rebirth, took me 6.5 hours, so that's a total of about 22 hours playing this game. That's about the same amount of time that I spent playing the main Kingdom Hearts 1 game. But I do think by the end of this playthrough, I do appreciate Chain of Memories for what it was trying to do. I could see this type of gameplay, creating your own maps and rooms and building your deck. I could see it if it was more refined, being an actually pretty interesting roguelite game, but I don't think I was ever completely on board with it either. Even though I got to the point where I understood it, I even mastered it, some might say, but I don't think I was ever fully on board. I don't think that I would ever choose this form of gameplay over like the traditional Kingdom Hearts combat style. And by the end of the game, things just got super repetitive to the point where I was just ready to be done. You can only clear so many rooms of Heartless before you're just ready to move on to the next story beat. So all that being said, I think I will give this game a 3 out of 5. I think there is some stuff to take away from here. I think the gameplay is probably for someone out there, just not the majority of gamers. Most of you are probably better off just watching a story so far video on YouTube if you're interested in the events between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I will talk to you later. Bye!